Lesson 5, 8 Leads that Set the Hook. Hello again. The purpose of a headline is to catch the reader's attention, the right person for what you're selling, and then lead that reader into your presentation of what you hope they'll buy. What comes next after the headline is almost as important as the headline. It's the lead. Within the journalistic profession, this is called a lead, spelled L-E-D-E, but it's the same thing. The lead functions as a bridge from the headline to the rest of your marketing copy, getting readers into the crux of what you're selling and why they should take action. Some leads are very direct and others more indirect, channeling the interest awakened by the headline to your main points. To use a crude and somewhat unpleasant comparison, the headline hooks the reader and the lead sets that hook so the reader stays. Usually a lead consists of one paragraph or no more than 5 or 6 sentences if the paragraphs are really short. So let's look at 8 types of leads. Sometimes you'll want to get straight to the point with no introduction, no warm-up, no lead-in. In the example, while your dog is with us, they're part of our family, that functions as a headline, while the rest of the copy explains what the dog boarding consists of and how it works. You'll find this direct pitch style of copy on a lot of contemporary websites where they break everything down into small, artfully arranged, thematic chunks, each one with a headline and a brief elaboration. But if you're selling something that requires a longish, more complicated explanation and justification, I don't recommend this simple, straightforward approach. You may want to get going by building rapport with the reader over their experience of a specific problem. In this kind of lead, you demonstrate that you understand how they're feeling and then segue into how you promise to take away their pain or fulfill their hope. I used this approach for pitching a report on catalog copywriting called 73 Ways to Describe a Widget. Below a headline promising to help the reader write more interesting product descriptions, I started off, sigh. You have another 17 product descriptions to go for your website or catalog. You realize the reader was yawning long ago, and you're going to scream for not knowing how to avoid making every widget sound the same. The perfect buyers for my report, who have an online store or sell through a printed catalog, identify with this, and indeed, this report was one of my most popular products for a while. Instead of vividly evoking how the reader feels, we can lead off by using words to paint a dramatic picture of what they would experience when they buy. This is a particularly popular kind of lead for anything that involves pampering, such as a tour, spa services, or fine dining. Here, the lead rhapsodizes, imagine flying in a private jet. Picture yourself standing before a glittering shrine, breathing in holy air. Visualize yourself surrounded by singing trees as you watch endangered rhinos. Notice that this scenario includes physical sensations, hearing, and sight, blending them together appealingly. People who want to have those types of experiences respond well to this technique. Next, a very common lead involves laying out the problem, either in paragraph form or as bullets, then going on to the solution. By the way, if the wording on this slide is too small for you, you can download a JPEG of it with the file name Problem Solution. Sometimes the bullets portray one overall condition with a question like, "Is this you?" while other times the bullets are introduced as a collection of possibilities, as in, "Do any of these apply to you?" In this example, under the headline, "Solving the 8 Problems Everyone Faces," we see, "Any of these sound familiar?" The bullet points are phrased as thoughts or worries that people have, such as, "I'm afraid of feeling like a fraud," or "Aren't I too old to get started on this?" And this example has 2 glaring mistakes that I need to point out. First, saying everyone faces these issues is hype, exaggeration. I don't think that's true. Second, the headline refers to 8 problems, but there are only 7 bullet points. With that said, this type of lead can work very well for many types of selling situations, and it doesn't need that much creativity to pull it off. Another lead option is starting with a story related to what you're selling. It could be a true story or a generalized representative one, like once upon a time there were 2 college graduates. One did such and the other. Much of the time, the story takes up just one paragraph as a springboard to what's being marketed. If the story is well chosen and well told, it pulls the reader in and it makes a point through storytelling drama before sliding on into a promotion for the product or service at hand. The example I chose to illustrate this technique uses an experience the company owner had as an anxious, nervous college student hoping to calm down through meditation. Although the language used here is pretty simple, there are key details that anchor the story at a time and place and a particular needy mindset. So the reader finds it easy to settle in for the story, to see where it goes, and then find out how they can have the same life-changing resolution that Paul Sheely experienced. It's quite a different kind of opener to simply lay out a special deal, but this approach works especially well through email to an audience that already understands and feels the need for the general category of item being sold. Here you see a bare bones email I received after buying a down comforter from Wholesale Beddings. The lead is just, "What are you waiting for?" with the offer of 25% off, the promo code, and the link to use. I don't recommend this minimalist mercenary type of lead for a cold audience or a web page that people might come across out of the blue, but for email to existing customers, it may be perfect. Sometimes you want to set the context for what you're pitching with facts or statistics. This drives home the importance of a situation that you suspect the reader might not fully appreciate. Notice here how the sales copy for a best-selling book on trauma by a psychiatrist opens by emphasizing how widespread trauma is by citing combat veterans generally, then 1 in 3 Americans having engaged in violence. Consider this type of lead for any sort of cause, social problem, medical issue, or personal dilemma. Similar to the facts statistics lead, but broader, is where you explain the background for what you're selling. You might need to provide some sort of general orientation where, for instance, the reader doesn't understand what a hybrid heating system does or what a doula is. In my example, the authors of a book titled From Rhino to Unicorn explain in their lead not only what they mean by the animal terms rhino and unicorn in a business context, but they also describe their starting point analysis of the struggle between old established companies and digital startups. This type of lead especially suits abstract or less familiar products or services. Let me close this section of the course with 3 don'ts for leads. Out of desperation, when your mind feels blank, you might feel tempted to go to a dictionary website and open with their definition of a key word, as in organized, with the pronunciation in those funny symbols, then adjective, and then arranged in a systematic way, as in organized crime. That's incredibly boring. You're better off with no lead at all than with that lame one. Likewise, don't start with a stupid question or two, such as, "Did you ever wonder what gas station attendants do when they're not working the cash register?" Well, no. Bye. Again, that's boring and lame. And third, always go back after you've finished writing your marketing copy and reread your lead. Might you actually have written 2 or 3 separate leads before finally coughing your way into your main pitch? Writing instructors call this throat clearing. You were warming up. Keep the strongest of your leads and delete the others. This is a good time to pause and review by writing some of the leads for one of the headlines that you came up with in the previous lesson for the Red Cross First Aid Handbook. So Download the PDF called Exercise 4 and take your time with it. Then we'll go on to Part 3, Differentiate and Dramatize, where we look at techniques for expressing and playing up how your offering stands out from the competition.